Sounds crazy to some, but it's a dream of mine because in a world of chaos, I'm choosing peace. Oftentimes when we think about living a positive life, we think like it's some type of like higher power. And it's literally it's mind shifts. It's changing how you currently think to changing how you would like to think. In this days in this society, we focus so much on the negative aspects of our life, and we don't understand like the positive aspects of our life is where a lot of our peace resides. Moreover, we don't even know like we are even doing it sometimes because we've been literally conditioned to think that way, right? Like we just don't know. And it's not even to say it's the environments of where you've been brought up in. Sometimes it's just the environments of where you're working in, the environments you're living in, and I mean also living in. It all depends. So that's why I feel like when it comes towards changing and living a more positive life, it's not like you're touching trees and stuff like that. That's not it. It's just focusing more on the positive aspects of every situation. And once you kind of start doing that, it takes a lot of practice. But once you start doing that, you realize like, oh wow, it's a lot more simplistic and also a lot more easier than you possibly thought. I'll give you a bit of an example of how I kind of learned how to become a bit more positive when it came towards my life. There was obviously like life be lifing. We all go through certain situations where it brings out not the greatest side of us. And with that, like we not too sure of how to respond, and sometimes we respond in a bit of a like a negative way, right? And we respond in a negative way silently. We're not gonna like say it out loud to the person or the group, right? We just kind of like may say it to on our way home, or brushing our teeth, getting ready for work, getting up, whatever the case. But more of the times like we don't really say it out loud because we're kind of afraid of the repercussions of what could come, right? Like how the person's gonna react. So we just kind of say it to ourselves. But even just saying it to yourself, you're putting it out there. And a way that I've kind of learned, and it was most simplistic way for me to start living more of a positive life, was I would start off by thinking of three positive things that were in my life. It's like a gratitude, right? And then in the heart of a situation, I would try to find the, I guess you could say, the positive side of certain like of the situations. I'm gonna give you a bit of an example. The other night, my ceiling was leaking. It was just like a water issue in my building. Of course, immediately I got annoyed. This was like 10 o'clock at night, so I was like, "What the heck?" Like, I'm trying to like chill out for the rest of my day, and immediately I just got into action, and I just did what I had to do. Contact property manager, plumber came that night, got it all situation dealt with, thank God. And actually the property manager said to me like, "Hey yo, it's a good thing you contacted us. That situation could have been a far worse situation." So as I'm cleaning and mopping my floor, I realized I could not go to bed with this. If I could have not gone to bed if this was happening and I didn't know, I would have woken up to a far worse damage in my place. And I'm like, that's a positive. As much as I got water all over my floor and water coming down my ceiling, that's still a positive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know people are just thinking like, okay, yeah, that's great. But no. I look at it as a positive because if I had gone to bed, it would have been a far worse situation. Another side of that, I was like, all right, it came down the wall a little bit. Your girl's getting a new paint job a little. Which, getting a little bit of a paint touch up on an area that I've been wanting to get a paint touch up on, and they're going to do it. That's a positive, right? So at least try to look for like three things to be grateful for, but also throw the positivity towards it, because sometimes like we think we are not like, it's other people's responsibility to show us the positive side of things, but it's totally ours. It's our job to be as positive as we can for ourselves, not for anybody else. It's primarily for us. It's not anyone's job but us. Another thing that I've really thought about when it came towards me trying to like shift my mindset into a positivity was my past. I think when we think about past, we automatically think about the negative. We don't really touch base on the positive memories that we have. Because when people say don't go to your past, like you can't go back, you can't go forward. And I'm like, I hear you, and I hear you on this, but I feel like every part of our story plays a very important part. It's like kind of like a monopoly board where you land on different boardwalks or different properties. Every piece plays a very important part. So I may not look at the stuff that wasn't so great in my past, but best believe I do go back and think about the positive things in my past, the positive, um, let's say, lessons I've learned, whether it's from an older sibling, a parent, a friend, a neighbor, just a connection I met for one day. I will think about the positive parts of my past because my past is just not all bad. You know what I'm saying? Our past is not always, I'm not speaking for everybody, but not all the time is our past horrible. There are some parts of it that we could take a step back and be like, yo, that day was quite damn awesome. That moment with that friend, I will always cherish that. That moment with a parent or a grandparent, I will always remember that. So it's just a little bit of a different way that you could think about your past. Even though I know people will tell you time and time again all over social media, don't go to your past. That's where this lives and blah, blah, blah. Bro, I look at my past all the time, and I just because I look at my past also for lessons that I can use moving forward. You know what I mean? Like there's a path that we're on, that I'm on, and I know that there's some lessons from my past that could help me move forward. And I say that, and I've said it before, that if you're looking into your past and it's helping you move forward, yo, thumbs up. But if it's gonna somehow hold you back, then obviously don't do that. But if it's gonna somehow help you push forward, I'd say, hey, why not take a second? And it sometimes, looking at your past could even be like looking at your growth. So I sometimes will look at my journal entries from like a year to 2 years ago, and the point of that is just to like reflect. And sometimes I ain't gonna lie to you, I'd be like, yo, your girl was losing her mind. What the what were you writing? But I realized I'm not in that space anymore. Like I have a higher vibration in terms of my positivity. Like I'm not there anymore. So but it's very interesting to take a step back and look at it and be like, wow, look how far you have come. Look at the changes you've made. Look at the shifts you made. And kind of talking about high vibration as well. When you're trying to live more of a positive life and you're noticing things around you and how you feel, it changes. How you react changes, because there's going to be moments where people are going to test your positivity. Environments are going to test your positivity, and they don't purposefully mean to do it. The reason why it is happening is because you are shifting in that environment, and the person you were prior to that does no longer live within you. It's slowly coming out and leaving because it's allowing the positive side of you, the high vibrational side of you, to come out. And one of the things that I've learned about in terms of like high vibrational, at least for myself, is when you're around low vibrational people, it doesn't mean like it's a horrible thing. When you're around low vibrational environments, it could try to bring out the worst in you all over again. So although you've done all that work and you're living that positive life and you feel like, yo, I'm actually like in a good mental and mindset shift space, like I feel good, you know what I'm saying? And you'll know, because it doesn't just affect your mental, it affects your whole body. Like you'll feel it. And when you get to that point, there's gonna be a moment where an old situation will pop up, and it could be repetitive. And you have to figure out a way. And this is why it's so great to seek support and work with a coach and work with a therapist and work with a counselor or someone, or even just speaking with a really good trusted human being, to figure out a way, like how can you respond in those environments now. Because that's just the thing, when you start shifting this up here and you start shifting your mind, now you got to figure out a way to respond, because the old version of you would respond in maybe in anger, frustration, whatever. This version of you now, when you kind of hit the higher vibration positive life and have just having nothing but positivity just pouring out of you pretty much, you now have to figure out a way at how to respond without lowering that. And there's so many little ways you could do it, and I could give you a ton of ways that we can do it, but it may not work for you. So we got to figure out a way that's going to work for you. We got to figure out a way that we can allow that positive vibe to stay within you, the positivity to stay within you, because we don't want to lose that. We just did all that work, and that's the last thing we would want to do, is just like lose it completely. With that being said, when you are around though those people who were or the environments that are not really, or maybe they notice sometimes they do, and they notice that you're changing, and then they're trying to like kind of pull you back down to their reality of what they think you should be doing, even though the reality has changed because you have changed your mindset, and you're working on changing how you react, and thinking more through your heart, right? At that moment, you have to create boundaries as well. I know we hear about it all the time, and boundaries, but boundaries actually is a great way to protect your peace and also allow yourself to live a more positive life. Sometimes you're one boundary away from the ideal life that you want. Sometimes it just takes that one boundary that you're so terrified to set to actually tap into where you want to be. And the reason why that's the case is because that boundary is kind of like holding you back. It's almost like it's holding you back from your ankles or from your arms, trying to like pull you back to the reality of what they think it should be and that environment think it should be. And literally by just setting a boundary and by actually like holding firm on that boundary, you will find yourself feeling far more, I would say, like not so much just better, but you'll find yourself feeling far more at peace. You'll find yourself also feeling far more relaxed and a sense of just like ease. And it could just be that one boundary. And maybe you're watching or listening to this episode right now and you're like, I know what boundary she's talking about. Like, I don't know it, but like, you know it. You know what boundary it is you may have to set, and you should never feel upset or scared to set it. And it's okay if you have that feeling. I know I've had it too, but try not to. I know that's kind of like an oxymoron, but try not to, because the boundary that you're probably holding yourself back is where you want to need to be. And then it doesn't mean that boundaries with another person. Sometimes that boundary is also with yourself, right? And because, like, as I said before, living a positive life is, or kind of just having a sense of positivity in your life, it starts within you. It's a choice, right? So sometimes the boundary could be just, I know I need to do this. I know I should do it, but maybe you're not in a position or you're not ready. But I want you to think about it this way. And I said it before and I'm going to say it again. What if you're just one boundary away from that exact change, that shift, that life that you've been wanting for decades, but you're just like, I don't know where to start? What if you start with that one boundary? What if that is where your positive and positivity is literally like laying in? Let's say like it's like a box. Let's say it's like a box and it's literally marked positivity, hypothetically, right? And in that box is where you've been locking away that life that you've been thinking of. And if you just opened up that box and you broke that box down and you let that positivity just to shine and be all over you, and all you had to do was set a boundary, I think you would probably do it. Because, like, why not? We only got one life to live. To be fair, back in March, I buried my 95th year old grandmother. She was 95 and she would have been 96 like in a few months. Her birthday is in August. And one of the things that her death taught me was, at the end, if you're in a hospital, hospice, whatever, depending on how your situation, they just give you whatever they want to give you. They just give you all the food, whatever it is. And that's it. Like, you can't really sit there so much, unless it depends, right? On like what it is, right? I've learned, you may not have your last request all the time. It depends, because after a certain point, you lose your speech and you lose your sight. And it stuck with me because it's like, I want to see, I want to hear, I want to feel everything I can before that time comes. I want to be able to live the life I want to live, not the life that other people think I should. but the positive life that I want to live. I want it. I want the positivity to almost feel like it's contagious. That anybody I come around, they get a touch off of it. You feel sounds crazy to some, but it's a dream of mine, because in a world of chaos, I'm choosing peace. In a world of chaos, I am choosing peace, and I'm choosing my positive love and my positive life and my positive everything. So when you think of living a positive life, don't make it seem so difficult. Just ask yourself some questions, and this is great for self-reflection. Like, just write down, what areas of my life needs more positive vibes? What areas of my life do I need to be more positive in? Why is positivity so important to me at this chapter of my life? How could I start just 1%, add 1% of positive vibes to my positivity into my life? Just something as simple as that. And I know you're like, well, that's it. No, it starts, it builds, right? It takes time for you to work through it all. But if you take the certain steps to do it, I think you'll find that over time it builds and it builds. And again, it does become contagious, because others around you are like, yo, I like that vibe. I want to live that vibe. And I'm living proof for it. And it's not me being cocky in any way. That's my mission. If I could impact 1 million lives in my lifetime, I will sleep peacefully every night. Like, trust me. So I hope that this episode helped you kind of figure out and just start thinking and jogging this lovely brain of ours, this beautiful piece of machinery, natural, beautiful piece of machinery, how to live your positive life, how to construct it a little bit, how you want it to look. But start down with the most simplistic steps of asking yourself some questions. Like I said, what areas do I want to add positivity to my life? What does it look like? How can I make 1% change a day? Like, what steps can I take for just 1% change? And that's your action right there. If you're wondering, like, how do I do it? That's your little action right there. How can I make that 1% change a day? How could I throw more gratitude behind it as well? Just start with that. Start with that self-reflection piece, because this is allowing you to get to know you just a tad bit more. All right, y'all, go ahead and screenshot this episode and add it into your IG story, even your TikTok story. Heck, add this to YouTube, to Facebook, LinkedIn. Yo, we're trying to get the podcast out to as many people as we possibly can, to dope individuals just like yourself, to help them and guide them to live and love a dope life. So please share this with your people, share this episode with your people, and tag me in it at @DopeLifeCoach_. I would greatly, 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 greatly appreciate it. As always, y'all, I will see you next week. Walk with peace, and walk with love.